Welcome to World Decoded. Today, we're uncovering one of America's biggest Cold War secrets, a hidden nuclear city buried beneath Greenland's ice. Why was it built? What was Project Iceworm? And why was it abandoned? Stay with us until the end, because this story is more unbelievable than fiction. Let's get started. Asterisk, in the early 1960s, America secretly built a city beneath the ice of Greenland. Not a military bunker, not a temporary research station, an underground city, complete with bedrooms, laboratories, a hospital, a chapel, and even its own nuclear reactor. Officially, it existed to study the Arctic, but decades later, declassified government documents revealed that Camp Century was only the beginning of something far more ambitious. Hidden behind the scientific mission was a classified military proposal known as Project Iceworm, a plan that imagined hiding hundreds of nuclear missiles beneath Greenland's ice, where they could remain concealed and ready during the Cold War. If it had worked, it could have reshaped the nuclear balance between the United States and the Soviet Union. But there was one problem. The Army believed it could master the Arctic. Nature had other plans. This is the forgotten story of America's secret city beneath the ice, and the classified project that remained hidden for decades. To understand why the United States attempted something so extraordinary, we have to go back to one of the most dangerous periods in human history. The Cold War. After World War II, two superpowers emerged, the United States and the Soviet Union. Although they never fought each other directly on a battlefield, they competed in almost every way imaginable: technology, espionage, space exploration, and above all, nuclear weapons. Each side feared a surprise attack from the other. Military planners worried that if enemy missiles struck first, air bases and missile sites could be destroyed before they had a chance to respond. In the world of nuclear strategy, survival depended on one simple rule: your weapons had to survive long enough to strike back. That meant America needed places where its nuclear forces could remain hidden, protected, and difficult to destroy. Some ideas involved submarines, others focused on hardened missile silos. But one proposal seemed almost impossible: hide missiles beneath the Arctic ice. Why Greenland? At first glance, Greenland didn't seem like the obvious choice. It was one of the coldest and most isolated places on Earth. Temperatures regularly fell far below freezing. Blizzards could last for days, and the landscape was covered by a massive ice sheet stretching for thousands of miles. But to American military planners, those harsh conditions looked like an opportunity. Greenland sat much closer to the Soviet Union than most bases in the continental United States. The thick ice could potentially hide tunnels from enemy surveillance, and because Greenland was part of the Kingdom of Denmark and NATO allied, the United States already had a military presence there. On paper, it looked like the perfect place to test a revolutionary idea. There was only one question: could anyone actually build and maintain an underground city inside a moving glacier? Most experts thought the answer was no. The U.S. Army decided to find out anyway, and what they built next became one of the most remarkable engineering experiments of the Cold War. The Army's plan sounded impossible, but in 1959, construction began in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Deep beneath Greenland's frozen surface, engineers carved massive trenches into the ice. Steel arches were placed over them, then buried under snow. Slowly, a hidden world began to take shape. It was called Camp Century. Officially, it was introduced as a scientific research station, but behind the scenes, it was something much more important. The U.S. Army wanted to find out whether people could live and whether military operations could survive inside a glacier for years at a time. Before long, Camp Century had become a fully functioning underground community. There were sleeping quarters, a kitchen, laboratories, workshops, a medical clinic, and even a small chapel. More than 200 soldiers, engineers, and scientists lived beneath the ice, completely cut off from the outside world. But the most incredible part wasn't the tunnels, it was the power source. Instead of relying on diesel generators, Camp Century was powered by a portable nuclear reactor. The reactor supplied electricity, heat, and even melted ice to produce fresh drinking water. For the first time in history, people were living inside a nuclear-powered city buried beneath a glacier. To military leaders, the experiment looked like an extraordinary success. If one underground city could survive beneath the Arctic, what else could be hidden there? That question would lead to one of the Cold War's most ambitious and most secret military proposals. Project Iceworm. Camp Century was never meant to be the final goal. It was only the test. The real mission had an even bigger name, Project Iceworm. According to declassified documents, the U.S. Army proposed building a vast network of tunnels beneath Greenland's ice, not hundreds of feet, but potentially thousands of miles stretching across the Arctic. Inside those tunnels, mobile nuclear missiles could be moved from one location to another. Instead of sitting in fixed launch sites, the missiles would constantly change position, making them almost impossible for the Soviet Union to locate or destroy. If war ever broke out, America would still have a hidden nuclear force ready to respond. On paper, it looked like a military breakthrough. Greenland's thick ice would act as a natural shield. Enemy satellites wouldn't see what was hidden below. And the frozen landscape seemed perfect for keeping one of America's biggest Cold War secrets. Everything appeared to be going exactly as planned. Camp Century was operating, the reactor was working, and military planners believed they were one step closer to turning Project Iceworm into reality, but they had overlooked one critical detail. The glacier wasn't standing still. It was moving every single day, and that silent movement was about to bring the entire project crashing down. At first, everything seemed normal, but after months beneath the ice, strange problems began to appear. The tunnel walls slowly started to bend. The ceilings began to sink. Doors no longer closed properly. Some passageways became so narrow that workers struggled to squeeze through them. The Army soon realized the terrifying truth. The glacier wasn't a solid block of ice. It was constantly moving, slowly, silently, and with enormous force. Every day, the ice pressed against the tunnels, crushing the structures little by little. Engineers worked around the clock to repair the damage. They reinforced walls, raised ceilings, and rebuilt sections of the tunnels. But every repair was only temporary. The ice always won. Then came the conclusion. No one wanted to hear. If a moving glacier could slowly destroy an underground city, there was no realistic way it could safely support a massive network of hidden nuclear missiles. Project Iceworm was no longer practical. One of America's most ambitious Cold War plans had failed, not because of the Soviet Union, but because of nature itself. The Army quietly abandoned the project. Camp Century was eventually shut down, and the nuclear reactor was removed. But the story was far from over. When Camp Century was abandoned, the story didn't disappear. It was simply buried beneath the ice. For years, the public believed the base had been nothing more than a scientific research station. Very few people knew about Project Iceworm or the military proposal hidden behind it. Then, decades later, declassified government documents revealed the truth. Camp Century had served as a test for an extraordinary Cold War idea to determine whether Greenland's ice could support a hidden network of nuclear missile tunnels. In the end, that vision never became reality. The glacier kept moving, and nature defeated one of the most ambitious military engineering projects ever proposed. Today, Camp Century still lies buried deep beneath Greenland's ice. Scientists have also warned that if the Greenland ice sheet continues to melt in the future, waste left behind at the abandoned site could eventually become exposed, raising new environmental concerns. Decades after the project ended, Project Iceworm never became an operational missile system. No nuclear missiles were ever deployed beneath Greenland, but its story remains a powerful reminder of how far the United States was willing to go during the Cold War, and how even the world's greatest superpowers cannot always overcome the forces of nature. A secret city, a nuclear reactor beneath the ice, and a classified plan that remained hidden for decades. Sometimes history's greatest secrets aren't buried underground. They're buried beneath miles of ice. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden chapter of history, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more untold stories, and let me know in the comments which Cold War mystery should we uncover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.